My name is Madison Carter, and just last week, I pulled off the biggest win of my career. After 6 days of grueling back-and-forth negotiations in Milan, Italy, I finally closed the expansion deal my boss had been chasing for 2 whole years. The 9-hour flight home left every muscle in my body aching, but underneath the exhaustion was something brighter, pure triumph. I'd just secured the deal that would cement my place at Hamilton and Blake Investments as more than just another analyst. I'd proven myself still. Before I went back to my apartment in downtown Denver, I made a promise. My mum had insisted that I stop by their house first. She wanted to hear about my trip, hug me, and let's be real, probably feed me something homemade, even though it was nearly dinner time. So there I was, steering my rental car through the familiar streets of Brookfield Heights, the neighborhood I grew up in. The setting sun washed the rows of houses in shades of amber and gold. It felt like a warm welcome home. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, I noticed something right away. The overgrown bushes by the garage were finally trimmed. A small thing, maybe, but it made me smile. Dad had been promising to get to it for months. I smoothed the wrinkles out of my pencil skirt and tried to ignore the pinching of my black heels. The silk blouse I wore was creased from the long flight, but I still looked the part as senior financial analyst who had just scored a career-making deal. Confident, sharp, capable. I dug into my purse for the garage remote. My Dodge Challenger, my pride and joy, had been parked in there while I was away. I'd left it at my parents' place because it was safer than leaving it in my apartment's lot downtown. The garage door rattled as it lifted, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Then, in the next breath, everything changed. The garage was empty. No glossy black Challenger. No shining chrome. Just Dad's lawnmower shoved against the wall, and Mum's boxes of gardening tools. I froze, staring at the hollow space where my car should have been. No, I whispered, my stomach dropping like a stone. My fingers went weak, and the remote slipped from my hand, clattering against the concrete. I stumbled forward, suitcase forgotten in the driveway, as panic surged through me. Not my car. Not the one thing I had worked so hard for. I shoved open the side door into the kitchen, heart hammering, and that's when I realized they were waiting for me. Mum, Dad, and my younger sister Sierra sat at the oak dining table like it was some kind of intervention. The silence in the room was thick, pressing down on me. Dad stared at his hands like they might hold the answers. Mum wore the tight smile she used when she was about to deliver bad news. Sierra sat up straighter than usual, her confidence almost rehearsed. "Madison, honey," Mum said, her voice dripping with that sweet, fake calm. "Don't overreact. Where's my car?" I demanded, my voice sharp, my throat dry. Sierra jumped in before Mum could answer. "It's just temporary. I'll pay it all back." "Pay what back?" I snapped. My pulse roared in my ears. "Where is my Challenger?" Mum's eyes darted to Dad, who still wouldn't look up. She cleared her throat. "We had to make a tough decision, sweetie. Sierra needed startup money for her business." Dad finally spoke, voice low and rough. "We took it to Mountain View Pawn. Got $45,000 for it." The world tilted. I grabbed the edge of the counter to steady myself. "You did what with my car?" "It's a loan," Sierra said quickly, like she thought I'd be reassured. "Not a sale. Once my cosmetics line launches, I'll pay it back with interest. You'll have your car back in no time." Her tone was practiced, like she'd been rehearsing this pitch for days, but all I could think about was the years I had poured into my career. The 70-hour work weeks, the missed vacations, the apartment upgrades I told myself I didn't need. All so I could save, all so I could afford the one dream I had carried since I was 9 years old. My grandpa used to say cars were more than just metal. They're dreams made real. "Maddie girl," he told me once, his wrinkled hands guiding mine across the engine of a friend's Challenger. Someday, you'll have your own beauty. Just be patient. And when I finally drove my black Challenger home for the first time, tears had streamed down my cheeks. Not just because of the roar of the engine or the shine of the paint, but because it represented every sacrifice I had made. Proof that my hard work meant something. And now it was gone. I stared at Sierra, her perfect hair falling over one shoulder, her voice rising with fake excitement. My cosmetic startup is revolutionary. I've developed a formula that I don't care if you discovered the fountain of youth in a bottle. I cut her off. My voice shook with fury. That car wasn't yours to take. Family helps family, Mum said firmly, her lips pressed into a thin line. You make good money, Madison. Sierra just needs this chance. You used my spare key, I said. Slowly, the betrayal cutting deeper with every word. And my title. You forged my signature. That's fraud. Dad winced. We're your parents, he muttered, as if that erased everything. Mum leaned forward. We've always supported, both of you equally. A bitter laugh tore out of me. Equally, that's what you call this. My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling my eyes downward. It was a notification from my insurance company. Leanne had been placed against my car. The fire inside me iced over. This wasn't just a betrayal. It wasn't just about money. This was a crime. You have 30 days, I said, my voice flat, steady, final. 30 days to get my car back, or I press charges for fraud and theft. Mom gasped. Charges against your own family. Family doesn't steal from each other. I turned on my heel, storming out the door, the sound of it slamming. Behind me rattling the picture frames on the wall, frames filled with smiling faces that suddenly felt fake, like props in a play. The next morning, I stood in Mountain View Pawn, the air heavy with cheap air freshener and desperation. I tried to keep my shoulders squared, my blazer neat, as though I belonged here. My reflection in a smudged glass case told a different story. Mascara stains I hadn't managed to scrub off from crying last night. The man behind the counter wore a name tag that read Gordon. His face was blank, his voice practiced. Miss Carter, your vehicle was pawned 5 days ago. Loan amount, $45,000, plus fees. I scanned the paperwork, my financial training kicking in automatically. $3,000 in fees. That's predatory. Classic car markets are volatile. Gordon replied calmly. We take risks. Full repayment required in 35 days. Otherwise, the car goes to auction. He tapped the fine print with his pen. That's October 3rd. Total payoff, $48,000. My stomach clenched. Then I saw it. My signature, or what was supposed to be my signature, scrawled across the title transfer. Except it wasn't mine. It was close, but it missed the little upward curve I always put at the end of the N in Carter. This isn't my signature, I said firmly, pulling out my driver's license and a recent contract from work. I pushed them across the counter. Compare for yourself. Gordon's composure faltered. If you're suggesting fraud, I'm not suggesting, I cut in. I'm telling you. Pulled the security footage from the day this went down. I wasn't even in the country. I was in Milan. 20 minutes later, his manager joined us, reviewing everything with growing unease. The reality hit me like a cinder block. My parents hadn't just betrayed me. They had committed criminal fraud. The kind of thing that sends people to jail. We can file a police report right now, the manager offered. The word police made my throat close. I wasn't ready. Not yet. I need time to think, I said, my voice barely steady. And with that, I walked out of the pawn shop, the weight of betrayal pressing harder with each step by the time I pulled back into my downtown Denver apartment. The adrenaline that had fueled me all morning was gone. My body moved on autopilot, dropping my suitcase by the door, kicking off my heels, and collapsing onto the couch without even turning on the lights. For a few moments, I just sat there, in the silence, staring at the faint glow of the city outside my window. My Challenger was sitting under fluorescent lights in a pawnshop garage, instead of parked safely in my parents' driveway. The betrayal kept replaying in my head like a broken record. My family, my own family, had done this to me. I covered my face with both hands. The exhaustion from the flight, the endless hours of negotiation in Milan, the shock of what had happened, it all came crashing down. And with it, the memories of a lifetime of little betrayals that suddenly didn't feel so little anymore. Growing up, Sierra and I had always been compared. I was the one with straight A's, the planner, the one who stayed up late with textbooks spread across the kitchen table. Sierra was the free spirit, the one with a new hobby every week. First painting, then singing lessons, then photography. Our parents always said, Sierra just needs space to find her thing. Space. That was the word they used. What it really meant was, they covered for her, paid for her mistakes, smoothed over every bump in the road she created. When she wrecked her first car because she was texting behind the wheel, Dad shook his head and muttered, "She's young, she'll learn." When I asked for help paying for my summer internship in New York, they told me, "You're independent, Maddie. You'll figure it out." I did figure it out. I worked double shifts at a diner and slept in a dorm with 3 strangers. Meanwhile, Sierra got a brand new SUV to keep her safe. And the worst part, I told myself it was fine. I told myself that being the responsible one meant I didn't need the same kind of support. But now they had taken the one thing that was mine. The sound of my phone buzzing pulled me out of my spiral. It was a video call request from Uncle Ray. I hesitated before answering. Ray was my dad's older brother, the black sheep of the Carter family. While Dad settled into the quiet suburbs, Ray built a small but successful auto repair business in Colorado Springs. He was the one who taught me how to check my oil when I was 16, the one who had taken me to my first car show. When I finally accepted the call, his familiar face filled the screen, all sun-weathered skin and laugh lines. "There's my jet setter," he said, his voice warm. "Heard about Milan. Congrats, kiddo." The tears I'd been holding back all day spilled over. "Uncle Ray," I choked out. "They pawned my Challenger." For a moment, his expression didn't change. Then his eyes hardened and his jaw tightened. "Explain." He said simply. So I did. Every detail, the empty garage, the staged family meeting, the pawn shop, the forged signature. By the time I finished, my voice was raw. Ray let out a long whistle. "That's low, even for your folks." "I don't know what to do," I admitted. "Part of me wants to press charges, but it's Mum and Dad, Sierra." He leaned closer to the camera, his voice firm but not unkind. "Madison, blood doesn't excuse betrayal. You've been carrying that family on your back for years. And this is theft, plain and simple. Don't sugarcoat it." I swallowed hard. What if I give them time? 30 days. If they don't get the money, then I'll make it legal. Ray studied me for a long moment. "You've always been too forgiving. But fine, 30 days, not 31. You hear me?" I nodded, wiping my cheeks. "I hear you." Before we hung up, he added, "And Madison, don't let them make you the villain for protecting what's yours." The next day, my best friend, Naomi, dragged me out of my apartment. "You're spiraling," she said, tossing me a hoodie. "Coffee, now." Naomi had been my roommate back in college, the only person who truly understood the insane hours of being a finance major. Where I was structured and cautious, she was fiery and bold. Together, we balanced each other out. At our usual cafe, she listened as I recounted everything again. Her reactions were sharper than Ray's, more explosive. Are you kidding me? She practically shouted, earning a glare from the barista. They stole from you. Your parents and Sierra should be in jail already. I know, I sighed, stirring my coffee even though I didn't add sugar. But pressing charges means public humiliation. For them, for me. Naomi slammed her palm against the table. Madison, listen to me. They didn't hesitate to humiliate you. They knew that Carr meant everything to you. And Sierra, don't even get me started. A cosmetics line, really. I let out a humorless laugh. She called it revolutionary. Said she's developed some kind of formula. Formula my ass, Naomi muttered. She probably mixed lotion with glitter and called it a brand. Despite everything, I cracked a small smile. Leave it to Naomi to cut through the fog with brutal honesty. Here's what you do, she continued. Set a hard deadline. 30 days. If they don't deliver, you lawyer up. Simple as that. I nodded slowly. That was the same advice Uncle Ray had given me. And deep down, I knew they were both right. That weekend, Sierra invited me to what she called her business presentation. Against my better judgment, I went. She had rented out a tiny co-working space downtown, decorated with fake flowers and motivational posters. A handful of friends sat in folding chairs, sipping flavored water, while Sierra stood at the front with a PowerPoint. Her pitch was polished, I'll give her that. She spoke with confidence, pacing like a TED Talk speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, I present to your Radiance by Sierra, a cosmetics line that will redefine beauty standards. Slide after slide showed mock-up bottles, pastel branding, and vague buzzwords like innovative, disruptive, and organic luxury. When it was over, polite applause filled the room. Sierra beamed at me as if expecting praise. Well, what do you think? I stared at her for a long moment, then said flatly, where's the actual product? Her smile faltered. The packaging is still in development, so you don't have a formula, or manufacturers, or distribution, I pressed. It's coming together. She insisted. I just need runway capital. That's why I borrowed the money. Borrowed. The word made my stomach churn. I stood, grabbed my bag, and said quietly, you didn't borrow it, you stole it. Her face crumpled. Maddie, I walked out before she could finish. That night, I drafted a short email. My hands trembled as I typed, but when I hit send, a strange calm washed over me. Subject, challenger, loan, agreement body. You have 30 days to repay. $48,000 to Mountain View, pawn and recover my vehicle. If repayment is not made by October 3rd, I will proceed with legal action for fraud and theft. This is not negotiable. I copied Mom, Dad, and Sierra. For once in my life, I wasn't the forgiving one. I wasn't the one smoothing over the cracks in our family's foundation. This time, I was drawing the line, and deep down, I knew when people like my parents and Sierra are told no for the first time. That's when the real storm begins. The first week after I sent that email, there was silence. Not a text, not a call. Not even one of Mum's guilt-laden, just checking in messages. But silence didn't mean nothing was happening. I knew my family. I knew the pattern. First, denial, then bargaining, then the last-minute scramble to fix what they'd broken. Sure, enough by day 8, the cracks started to show. I heard it first from Uncle Ray, who called me on a Sunday afternoon. You sitting down? He asked. Yes. Why? Because your parents just showed up at my shop, asked me for a loan. I pressed my forehead into my palm. Oh God, don't worry, he said. I told them no, flat out. I'm not funding Sierra's pipe dream. They looked about as shocked as if I'd grown a second head. A bitter laugh escaped me. They're not used to hearing no. They better get used to it, Ray said. Because from what I can tell, Sierra's business is circling the drain before it even started. What do you mean? I asked. though part of me already knew. She hired my buddy's print shop for her labels, tried to pay with a post-dated check. It bounced. He called me, asked if I knew her. Maddie, she doesn't even have a working prototype of her so-called product. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Unbelievable. No, it's very believable, Ray corrected. This is Sierra we're talking about. But the point is Sierra's not just out of money. She's out of credibility. Word gets around fast. I thanked him, hung up, and sat there staring at the skyline outside my window. Denver glowed in the evening light, tall buildings reflecting the orange sky. The city looked stable, permanent. My family, meanwhile, was crumbling by the second. Weak, Mom broke the silence. She called late one night, her voice hushed, like she didn't want Dad or Sierra to hear. Madison, she said, please don't go through with this legal thing. You know what it would do to our family name. I clenched my jaw. Do you know what it did to me when I found my garage empty? There was a long pause. Then, your father and I are looking at options. We might refinance the house. I blinked. You'd risk the house for this. We don't have much choice, she said softly. Sierra can't come up with that kind of money on her own. My chest tightened. Mum was talking about mortgaging their future, their security, all because Sierra had once again bitten off more than she could chew. Don't do it, I said firmly. If you refinance, you'll be digging a deeper hole. This isn't my responsibility, and it shouldn't be yours either. Her voice cracked. She's our daughter too, Madison. So am I whispered. She didn't answer. By day 15, Sierra showed up at my apartment. She was dressed in her entrepreneur outfit blazer, too big for her frame, cheap heels clicking against the hallway floor. She looked exhausted, but still put on that smile she used to get out of trouble as a teenager. Can we talk? She asked when I opened the door. I crossed my arms. Make it quick. She launched into another pitch, this time more desperate than polished. Investors are pulling out, she admitted. But that's only because they don't understand the vision yet. If I can just keep things afloat for a few more months, I know it'll work. I just need you to be patient. My laugh was sharp, humorless, patient. Sierra, my car is sitting in a pawn shop with a 30-day clock on it. This isn't about patience. It's about theft. Her face fell. Why are you being so harsh? You've always had everything handed to you, handed to me. I cut in, my voice rising. I worked double shifts in college while you wrecked cars and went on vacations. I skipped holidays, birthdays, because I was grinding my way up in finance. Nothing was handed to me, Sierra. Nothing. She flinched but pressed on. I just wanted one chance, Maddie. One. You don't get your chance by stealing mine. The words hung heavy in the air. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. Then she turned and walked away without another word. By day 20, the desperation was visible. Dad called this time. His voice was tired, the way it got when he worked too many overtime shifts at the warehouse. I've picked up extra hours, he said. We're trying, Madison. We really are. I didn't ask you to fix Sierra's mess, I said gently but firmly. You're right, he admitted. But your mom, she can't stand to see the family torn apart. We thought helping Sierra would bring us closer. Instead, it's... He stopped himself. Anyway, we'll do what we can. I hung up, feeling more conflicted than ever, because I loved my dad. For all his flaws, for all the times he'd turned a blind eye to Sierra's behavior, he was still the one who tucked me in after nightmares, who taught me how to ride a bike, who cheered when I graduated college. But love didn't erase betrayal. Day 20-5. Naomi and I met for drinks, and she immediately noticed the dark circles under my eyes. They're wearing you down, she said, sipping her margarita. You can't let them do this. I keep thinking maybe I'm overreacting, I admitted. that maybe I should just let it go. Naomi nearly choked. Overreacting. Maddie, if a stranger forged your signature and pawned your car, would you even hesitate to call the cops? No, exactly. So why should family get a free pass? I sat there in silence, letting her words sink in. She was right. Uncle Ray was right. But letting go of the illusion of family was harder than I'd ever imagined. By day 28, things took a darker turn. Sierra posted a video on social media, crying about how her unsupportive sister was sabotaging her dream. She painted herself as the victim, claiming she was about to launch the next big beauty brand if only her family believed in her. The comments were brutal, half of them calling her brave, the other half calling her delusional. But the damage was done. Mutual friends started texting me, asking if it was true. That night, I sat on my balcony overlooking the glittering city and realized something. This wasn't just about a car anymore. This was about boundaries, about years of being the responsible one while Sierra got away with everything, about parents who couldn't or wouldn't see the difference between love and enabling. And in 2 days, when the 30 days were up, I was going to find out exactly what kind of family I had left. Day 30 arrived like a storm cloud hanging overhead. I woke up early, staring at the ceiling of my apartment as the city outside began to stir. The deadline was here. By midnight, my family either had to come up with the money or face the consequences I had promised. Part of me still hoped they'd surprise me, that I'd get a call saying, "We made it work, Maddie. The car is safe." But deep down, I knew better. At noon, my phone rang. Sierra. I let it buzz twice before answering. Her voice was high, frantic. "Maddie, you don't have to do this. I just need more time. More time," I repeated, keeping my tone flat. "You've had 30 days. That was more than fair." "I'm so close," she insisted. "I met with a distributor yesterday. If they sign on, Radiance could blow up overnight. But if you go through with this, you'll ruin everything. You'll ruin me." I closed my eyes, letting her words sink in. I almost wanted to laugh. "Sierra, you ruined yourself the moment you forged my name." She went quiet. Then, in a whisper, she tried a different tactic. "You used to protect me. Remember when we were kids, and you took the blame for breaking Mom's vase? You've always had my back." My throat tightened, but I stayed firm. "Not anymore." The silence stretched, heavy and sharp. Finally, she muttered, "You'll regret this," and hung up by 3 o'clock. Mum showed up at my door. Her eyes were swollen, like she hadn't slept. She clasped her hands together, twisting her wedding ring around her finger. "Madison," she began softly, "please reconsider. If this goes to court, Sierra could get a record. Do you really want that for your sister?" I stared at her, the woman who had kissed scraped knees, who had cheered at my graduation, who had also turned a blind eye every time Sierra was bailed, out of consequences. "What I want," I said slowly, "is my car back. What I deserve is respect. You can't protect her forever, Mum. She has to learn." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I just don't want to lose my girls." "You already did," I whispered, my own chest aching. "The moment you chose one over the other." She broke down crying in my doorway. For a fleeting second, I wanted to comfort her, but I didn't. I couldn't, because this time, compassion would only mean surrender. At 5, I got the call from Mountain View Pawn. "This is Gordon," the clerk said. "Miss Carter, someone made the payoff an hour ago. Your vehicle has been released." I sat up straighter. "Released? To who?" "Your parents," he confirmed. "They came in with a cashier's check." Relief and dread washed over me. At the same time, the car was safe. But at what cost? That evening, I drove out to Brookfield Heights. The garage door was open when I pulled into the driveway, and there she was, my Challenger, gleaming under the fluorescent light like she had never left. I stepped inside slowly, running my hand across the hood. My throat tightened. She smelled the same leather and faint engine oil. Home. Then I noticed my family gathered in the kitchen. Dad looked worn down. Shoulders slumped like the weight of the world rested on them. Mum's eyes were still red. Sierra sat at the table, arms crossed, her jaw clenched in defiance. "We got the car back," Dad said quietly. "How?" I asked, though I already feared the answer. He sighed. "We refinanced the house. Pulled equity. It was the only way." My stomach dropped. "Dad, we did what we had to do," Mum interrupted. "For the family." I shook my head, anger and sadness colliding. "No, you did it for Sierra." Again, Sierra's chair screeched against the tile as she stood. "Why are you acting like the victim here? You have your stupid car back." "What more do you want?" My voice came out calm, icy. "Accountability." I set a folder on the table. Inside were legal documents I had prepared with Naomi's lawyer friend. "This," I said, sliding it toward them, "is a repayment agreement. $48,000 payable to me over the next 5 years, with interest." Sierra's eyes widened. "You can't be serious." "I am," I said. "Sign it, or I file the fraud report. And then you can explain to the police how you managed to pawn a car that didn't belong to you." The room went still. Mum's lips trembled. Dad rubbed his temples. Sierra stared at the paper like it was poisoned. Finally, Dad reached for the pen. His signature was shaky, but firm. Mum followed. Sierra refused until Dad slammed his hand on the table. "Enough, Sierra. You did this. You fix it." Her hand shook as she signed. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not the fear of losing money or reputation. The fear of losing control. Later that night, I took the Challenger for a drive. The engine roared to life beneath me, the vibration steadying my racing heart. I pulled out of the neighborhood, the houses blurring in my rearview mirror. Highway 285 stretched ahead, winding toward the mountains. The further I drove, the lighter I felt. The city lights faded, replaced by towering pines and a sky sprinkled with stars. I rolled down the window, letting the cool night air wash over me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe, because the Challenger wasn't just a car. It was a promise I had made to myself years ago, that my hard work, my sacrifices, my resilience meant something, that I could create a life that was mine, no matter how much my family tried to claim it. As the road curved upward, I whispered into the night, "This time I choose me." And for once, it didn't feel selfish. It felt free. The repayment checks started arriving each month, small at first, then larger when Dad picked up more over time. Sierra's resentment never faded, but the contract forced her hand. Mum called. Occasionally, her voice softer now, less demanding. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes I let it go to voicemail. Uncle Ray checked in, too, always reminding me, "Proud of you, kiddo." Boundaries are hard, but they're worth it. And Naomi, she was the first passenger I took on a midnight drive up through the Rockies. Windows down, music blasting, both of us laughing like we hadn't in years. The Challenger was mine again. But more importantly, so was my freedom.